The envelope lay on Sarah's kitchen table, shimmering in soft gold under the weak London light. Her name was written in elegant calligraphy, the kind that felt too grand for her cramped flat. She hesitated before opening it, almost afraid of what luxury might feel like in her hands. Inside was a thick card, embossed with palm trees and champagne glasses. Dubai, Bachelorette Party of the Year. The words danced across the page, promising a world far from the 12-hour hospital shifts and endless bills that had shaped her 20s. At the bottom, in bold ink, was Leila's name, her best friend since childhood, the girl who had always dreamed bigger, brighter, louder. "Come on, Sir," Leila had written in a note tucked beside the invitation. "I want you there. No excuses. This will be the week we'll never forget." Sarah traced the letters with her finger. For years, Leila's life had been spiraling toward glamour, designer clothes, high-end vacations, and finally a fiancé whose wealth seemed bottomless. Sarah, on the other hand, had stayed tethered to London, caring for patients who barely remembered her face and saving just enough to keep her small world afloat. She told herself she couldn't afford the flight. She told herself she couldn't get the time off work. But then she noticed the fine print. All expenses covered. First-class ticket enclosed. Her heart thudded. She pulled out the glossy boarding pass, her name etched beside the words London to Dubai. One way, no mention of a return. The following days blurred. Colleagues teased her about trading scrubs for bikinis. Her mother worried about those kinds of parties. Sarah brushed them off, packing dresses she hadn't worn in years, dabbing perfume she had almost forgotten she owned. At Heathrow, she stood at the gate, ticket clutched like proof she belonged to another world, if only briefly. Around her, business travelers tapped on laptops, families wrangled children, and she, Sarah Blake, nurse with dark circles under her eyes, was about to step into the kind of story people bragged about. On the plane, champagne was pressed into her hand before takeoff. She leaned back against the soft leather seat, watching clouds drift by. For the first time in years, the weight of exhaustion lifted. She allowed herself to believe in the glittering promise of Leila's words. A photo pinged onto her phone mid-flight, Leila in a penthouse suite, wrapped in silk, glass of rosé in hand. "Hurry up," the caption read. "The view's waiting." Sarah smiled, nerves dissolving into excitement. She imagined rooftop pools, desert adventures, yachts slicing through the Persian Gulf. She imagined laughter until sunrise, secrets whispered between old friends. As the plane began its descent, Dubai revealed itself in bursts of neon and steel, towers climbing into the night sky like monuments to excess. Sarah pressed her face to the window, whispering under her breath, "This is it." When the wheels touched down, she didn't notice the unease that lingered in the pit of her stomach. She only felt the pull of glittering lights, unaware that beneath them, illusions waited to swallow her whole. The airport doors slid open, releasing a rush of desert heat that clung to Sarah's skin like a second layer. Beyond the glass, Dubai stretched in impossible symmetry, towers glittering under floodlights, highways curling like ribbons, billboards flashing perfumes and diamonds. She clutched her suitcase tighter, eyes darting between strangers who moved with polished ease, heels clicking against marble floors. A man in a crisp black suit raised a placard with her name. "Miss Blake," he said, his accent smooth but distant. She nodded, stepping toward him. His grip on the suitcase was firm, almost possessive, as he guided her to a sleek black car waiting at the curb. Inside, leather seats swallowed her into silence. Through tinted windows, she watched the city roar past, malls glowing brighter than daylight, fountains leaping in choreographed bursts, streets pulsing with imported cars. Yet every glance she cast at the driver's eyes in the mirror met only flat glass, as if he had been trained not to see her. The car slowed at a tower, so tall it seemed to pierce the moon. A doorman in white gloves opened the door with a bow, his smile rehearsed. The lobby gleamed with chandeliers, each crystal dripping light across floors polished to mirrors. Sarah's reflection stared back at her, wide-eyed, almost foreign. "Sarah!" Leila swept across the lobby in a gown of emerald silk, her hair styled into waves that shimmered under gold light. She embraced Sarah with practiced warmth, perfume sharp with jasmine, and something darker. "You made it," Leila whispered, though her smile tightened when she noticed the driver standing close behind. "Come upstairs, everything's waiting." The penthouse sprawled like a palace, glass walls revealing the entire skyline, tables crowded with bottles, dresses strewn across velvet chairs. Other women turned as Sarah entered, their laughter faltering for a breath before resuming with exaggerated cheer. "Girls, this is Sarah," Leila announced. "My oldest, dearest friend." A tall brunette with crimson lips raised her glass. "Finally, the nurse arrives. We thought you were too busy saving lives." Her tone dripped with mockery, softened by a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Sarah forced a smile, placing her bag by the door. She noticed the ring of champagne glasses left half full, the ashtrays still warm, the faint tension stitched between the women's movements. Later they gathered on the balcony, city lights sparking below like fallen stars. Music thumped faintly from a neighboring tower. Leila's fiancé appeared suddenly, stepping through the sliding doors with the confidence of someone who owned not only the room, but the air within it. "Ladies," he greeted, eyes sweeping the group before landing on Leila. His hand lingered on her waist, gripped tight enough to leave marks. Sarah felt a chill despite the heat, watching Leila's smile freeze. One of the bridesmaids whispered behind Sarah's shoulder, words barely audible. "He wasn't supposed to be here." Sarah turned, but the woman's face had already hardened back into a mask. Laughter erupted again, loud and hollow, filling the night sky. Sarah lifted her glass, forcing herself to mirror the glittering scene around her. Yet beneath the glow of chandeliers and fireworks exploding in the distance, she couldn't shake the sense that every smile carried a hidden edge, every toast concealed a secret. She told herself she was imagining things, but as Leila's fiancé tightened his grip, Sarah's gut whispered otherwise. The next morning bled into noon before Sarah stirred. The penthouse curtains were drawn tight, sealing the room in velvet shadows. Voices drifted from the living room, sharp, hurried, clipped. She slipped from the bed and followed the sound, her bare feet silent against marble. Leila sat on the couch, makeup smeared, silk robe knotted carelessly. Her fiancé paced in front of her, phone pressed to his ear, voice taut with anger in a language Sarah didn't understand. When he hung up, the silence felt heavier than his words. "You shouldn't have invited her," he muttered, not bothering to lower his tone. Leila's eyes flicked towards Sarah's doorway, then back. "She's my best friend. Don't start." "She doesn't belong here." His voice dropped, but the menace sharpened. He gripped Leila's wrist. "Remember what's at stake." Sarah froze, breath shallow. The moment shattered when a bridesmaid burst in with laughter too loud, too bright. "Breakfast is here. Champagne and croissants for everyone." The tension evaporated under a mask of cheer. Later, around the breakfast table, Sarah noticed how the women leaned close together, whispering between sips of orange juice. Whenever she asked a question, the conversation broke, replaced with a shallow joke or forced compliment about her dress. She felt like a guest at a party rehearsed for someone else. One woman, the tall brunette from the night before, leaned toward her. "Leila tells us you're a nurse. Must be exhausting, working with ordinary people all the time." Her smile gleamed, but her eyes stayed cold. Sarah tried to laugh it off. "It has its moments." The brunette's gaze lingered, as though weighing her. Then she turned back to the others, conversation snapping shut like a door. That afternoon, Sarah found Leila alone on the balcony, staring at the city stretched endlessly below. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked gently. Leila flinched, then forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just tired." "Your fiancé." "Don't." Leila cut in sharply. She caught herself, softening her tone. "Please, Sar, let's just enjoy this, okay? It's supposed to be perfect." Sarah nodded, but unease gnawed at her. She remembered the grip on Leila's wrist, the whispers, the pointed looks. The party shimmered like glass, but every glance revealed cracks running beneath. That evening, the women dressed for another night out. Sequins, heels, diamonds, armor polished to perfection. As they posed for photos in the suite, Sarah caught herself in the mirror, Among them, she looked plain, out of place, almost disposable. On the ride to the club, Leila squeezed her hand. "Don't let them get to you. They're complicated." Sarah wanted to press for more, but music swallowed the moment. The car glided into the neon glare of downtown, laughter echoing inside like a chorus of bells. She tried to believe Leila's words, but as the night unfolded, she would learn that behind every smile lay a blade, sharpened by secrets none of them intended to keep buried. The yacht gleamed like a palace adrift on black water, lights strung along its decks glowing against the night. Music thundered before Sarah even set foot aboard, bass vibrating through the soles of her heels. The women posed on the gangway, hair lifted by the sea breeze, laughter sharpened by champagne. Inside, the air shimmered with perfume and heat. Waiters carried silver trays stacked with oysters and caviar, glasses refilled before they were empty. Leila floated among her bridesmaids, sequins flashing under neon strobes, her smile radiant but rigid. Her fiancé's presence clung to the edges of the party. Men in suits stationed at the bar, eyes scanning, silent and watchful. Sarah stayed near the railing, watching the skyline recede into glittering distance. The Persian Gulf stretched vast and dark, swallowing the horizon. For a moment she felt the faintest echo of freedom, wind threading through her hair. Then a voice slashed the stillness. "You don't fit here, do you?" The brunette, always smiling with her lips, never with her eyes, leaned beside her, glass tilting carelessly in her hand. "I didn't realize this was a competition," Sarah answered, keeping her voice steady. "It's not. But some of us know how to keep quiet. Some of us understand the rules." Her smile curved into something cruel. You're a liability." Before Sarah could respond, laughter erupted behind them. Another bridesmaid had climbed onto a table, bottle in hand, shrieking the lyrics to a song blasting through the speakers. The moment dissolved, but Sarah carried the words like a bruise. Later, in the lounge, tension sharpened. Leila's fiancé appeared, his arm heavy across her shoulders. "Enough drinking," he ordered, voice carrying over the music. "You're making a spectacle." Leila stiffened. "It's my night. It's my reputation," he snapped. The room fell quiet, the weight of his authority pressing down on everyone. Sarah stood frozen, fury rising in her chest. "Maybe let her breathe," she said before she could stop herself. The air fractured. His gaze cut to her, sharp and lethal. The women shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting between them. Leila tugged his sleeve, whispering something Sarah couldn't hear. At last he turned away, muttering to one of his men. "You shouldn't have said that," Leila hissed later, pulling Sarah aside near the bar. "You don't understand how things work here." "I understand control when I see it," Sarah whispered. "He's hurting you." Leila's eyes shimmered with something unspoken, but she shook her head, retreating before Sarah could press further. The night unraveled after that. Arguments simmered beneath laughter, jealousy twisting every toast. Accusations spilled in drunken fragments about money, affairs, betrayals too tangled to follow. Sarah tried to hold her ground, but every smile she met seemed sharper, every touch colder. On the upper deck, near midnight, the confrontation erupted. The brunette cornered Sarah against the railing, voice low but venomous. "Stay out of what isn't yours. Keep talking, and you won't see tomorrow." Sarah's pulse thundered. "Is that a threat?" The brunette smirked. "Call it a promise." Others spilled onto the deck, laughter disguising the jagged edges of their words. Sarah's protest drowned in the chaos, swallowed by music, by secrets too heavy for the sea to hold. By the time the yacht drifted back towards shore, Sarah's voice was hoarse from shouting into the storm of lies. No one seemed to notice. No one seemed to care. She didn't know it yet, but those were the last words she would ever speak. Morning crept into the penthouse like an intruder, harsh sunlight spilling across floors, littered with empty bottles and abandoned shoes. The women stirred slowly, groaning, reaching for water and sunglasses. Laughter was quieter now, edges dulled by exhaustion. A knock at the door broke the silence. One of the bridesmaids, still draped in sequins from the night before, staggered forward. At the threshold sat a massive box, wrapped in gleaming gold paper and tied with a crimson bow. From him, obviously, the brunette said, smirking, probably some extravagant wedding stunt. Together, they dragged it inside. The weight surprised them, heavier than flowers, heavier than champagne. Giggles echoed as cameras lifted, phones ready to capture the reveal. "Leila, open it," someone cried. Leila hesitated, fingers trembling as they brushed the ribbon. She forced a smile, her voice shaking. "Fine, but you're all recording the wrong thing. It should be me unwrapping, not the box." The bow came undone. Paper tore. The lid slid free. Silence detonated. Inside, cushioned among red rose petals, was Sarah's head. Her hair fanned out neatly, her eyes closed as if sleeping. A smear of dried blood stained her pale skin, turning the petals a darker crimson. Screams erupted. One woman dropped her phone, glass shattering against marble. Another vomited into the nearest trash bin. Leila stumbled backward, clutching her throat, gasping like the air had been sucked from the room. No, this can't," she stammered, voice splintering into sobs. The brunette covered her mouth but didn't move closer. Her wide eyes flicked toward the door, then toward the others, calculating even in terror. Someone dialed emergency services with shaking hands. The words tumbled out. "A body there's ahead in a box. Send someone now." Minutes later, uniformed officers stormed the suite, their faces unreadable as they surveyed the scene. Cameras clicked, gloves snapped. The women were herded to one side of the room, clinging to each other, mascara streaked across their cheeks. Leila collapsed onto the couch, trembling, whispering Sarah's name like a prayer. One officer lifted the box carefully, petals scattering across the floor. "This wasn't random," he said quietly to his partner. "This was staged." The words sent another wave of panic through the group. Whispers rose. Who would do this? Why her? But no one spoke Sarah's name again. The fiancé arrived moments later, his presence sucking the air from the room. He scanned the faces, then the box, his jaw tightening. "No one leaves until we know who did this," he ordered. The officers exchanged a glance, but didn't contradict him. Leila's sobs grew louder. The other bridesmaids froze, exchanging looks that carried something unspoken: fear, guilt, secrets bound too tightly to unravel in daylight. Sarah's laughter, her protest, her voice from the yacht had vanished. What remained was silence, punctured only by the sound of petals crunching beneath the officers' boots as they carried the box away. The police station reeked of stale coffee and cold air conditioning. Each woman was placed in a separate room, white walls closing in, cameras blinking from the corners. The glamour of the penthouse had dissolved. Sequins clung awkwardly to skin, makeup smeared into exhaustion. Detectives moved from room to room, voices measured, eyes sharp. They began with Leila. She sat hunched forward, trembling, clutching the hem of her dress. "Tell us about Sarah Blake," the officer asked gently. Leila's voice cracked. "She was my best friend. She came here for me. She didn't deserve," her words drowned in sobs. The detective slid a photo of the gift box across the table. Who would want to silence her? Leila shook her head, unable to answer. But her silence spoke louder than denial. In the next room, the brunette leaned back in her chair, feigning boredom. "You think I killed her? Please. I wouldn't ruin my dress hauling something like that." She sipped the water they gave her, smirking at the mirror, yet her eyes betrayed nerves, darting when the detective asked, "Why did you threaten Sarah on the yacht?" Elsewhere, another bridesmaid broke more quickly. "We all knew," she whispered, fingers knotting together. "Leila and him, they weren't just a couple. There were deals, debts, things Sarah wasn't supposed to see." The detective leaned closer. "What things?" Tears welled. He made her sign papers, control over her. Sarah tried to warn her, but she stopped, clamping her mouth shut, realizing too late how much she had revealed. Meanwhile, the fiancé was interrogated in a separate office, his lawyer shadowing every word.
"This is ridiculous," he snapped. "Do you know who I am?"
My fiancé's friend was careless. She probably... He cut himself off, jaw tightening. The detective raised a brow. Careless enough to end up in a box of roses? A muscle twitched in his cheek, but he didn't respond. Back in the holding area, the women avoided each other's eyes. The air thickened with unspoken accusations, with memories of the yacht replaying in their minds. One by one, loyalties began to fracture. By the end of the night, a pattern had emerged. Every story contradicted another. Some swore Sarah had been drunk, stumbling alone. Others whispered she had uncovered something she wasn't meant to know. Each denial only deepened the shadow of guilt cast over them all. And still no one dared to say the truth aloud. Sarah had become collateral in a game none of them truly understood. The trial began 6 months later in a courtroom lined with marble and silence. Reporters crowded the steps outside, cameras flashing, headlines screaming of wealth, betrayal, and a severed head in a gift box. Inside, Leila sat pale and hollow, her once bright eyes dimmed, hands trembling against the wooden bench. The prosecution painted a chilling picture. Jealousy, control, secrets too costly to expose. Witnesses testified about the yacht, about Sarah's defiance, about the threats whispered beneath music. The gift box, they argued, was not only murder, but a message obedience demanded, silence enforced. The defense fought hard. They pointed fingers at the bridesmaids, at shadowy men who boarded the yacht that night, at the chaos of luxury fueled by liquor and pride. They claimed Sarah had stumbled into danger by accident, a casualty of excess rather than intent. Day after day, the courtroom cracked with tension. The brunette took the stand, lips painted but voice unsteady. She didn't belong, she admitted. She asked too many questions. Gasps rippled through the gallery. When the fiancé faced cross-examination, his composure faltered. His grip on the witness stand tightened as the prosecutor asked, "Did you order her silence?" He didn't answer. His silence spoke louder than any denial. At last the verdict came. Guilty. The fiancé was sentenced to life, his empire splintering under the weight of scandal. The brunette vanished from public eye, fleeing into exile. The other bridesmaids returned home, shadows trailing them, friendships broken beyond repair. Leila never married. On the day the sentence was read, she walked out of the courtroom without looking back, veil of grief heavier than any bridal gown. Back in London, Sarah's family received a package from authorities, her passport, her boarding pass, a necklace she had worn on the flight. Her mother held the chain in her hands, whispering she only wanted a holiday. The story closed in newspapers but not in memory. Whispers of Sarah's death lingered in nightclubs, in hushed conversations among women who travelled for promises of paradise. Her head in the box became legend, a warning dressed in roses. Justice had been declared. Yet for those who loved her, it came in pieces, never whole.